You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. For over 40 years, B&H has been the professional source for photography, video, audio, and more. For your favorite gear, news, and reviews, visit us at bnh.com or download the B&H app to your iPhone or Android device. Now here's your host, Alan Weitz.
Greetings and welcome to the B&H Photography Podcast. Today's topic is photographica, specifically camera collecting. To get the skinny on what's hot, what's not, and why they're hot or not so hot, John Harris and I are being joined today by Nigel Russell. Nigel Russell is a graduate of Vassar College and Rochester Institute of Technology, where he studied photographic science and engineering. Since then, he has been involved with Sotheby's London, Sotheby's New York, Spira Collection in New York, Swan Auctions, Christie's, and a whole bunch of organizations that are involved in photographica, the sale of collectibles, prints, lenses, cameras, everything to do with photography. From 2005 to 2006, Nigel was the photography consultant for the National Council for Culture, Art, and Heritage in Doha, Qatar, and worked as photography curator for the Qatar Museums Authority from 2006 through 2013. He was also a major contributor to the history of photography as seen through the Spira collection, published by Aperture in the fall of 2001, and co-author of Spirit Capture, Photographs from the National Museum of the American Indian. He's also a member of the advisory committee of the Technology Department of the International Museum of Photography at George Eastman House, and has also lectured on the photography auction market and collecting photographica. Stick to it. You have a future here. Welcome, Nigel. It's really a pleasure to have you here today.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Currently, the big project that Nigel is working on is preparing for the Heritage Auction of Photographica, which takes place on October 27th.
That's correct.
Okay, and bidding is already starting online. If you want to see some amazing equipment and find out what it is that people are looking for, what kind of items are valuable, and just drool over some interesting cameras, take a look at the online catalog. Also joining us today is our very own Gabe Biederman of the B&H Road Marketing Team. If John and I are the so-called voices of B&H, Gabe is certainly one of the faces of B&H, the one with the hat. Gabe is also an avid photographer, a very good one if I may add that, and like myself, a collector of cameras. Welcome back, Gabe.
Good to be back.
All right. I took a walk through the B&H used department earlier today, which is this bigger than most camera stores. And I saw a beautiful 8x10 Deardorff. I saw some beautiful classic Leicas. I saw a Hasselblad. I saw a lot of interesting, beautiful, I saw an 11x14 view camera that just made me stop my tracks. What's the difference between some of the equipment we have here in our used department or any used camera store or eBay and the ones that we are looking at when we go online to some of the premier auction houses? What separates these?
Well, I mean, actually, a very good used camera store like or camera department like the one at B&H will have some really interesting collectible cameras. I think the main difference is that in an auction, you're putting together just the collectible cameras, just the really rare and unusual ones, rather than having just a few in an assortment of general used cameras.
So it's not as much of his garage sale.
Right. It's a little bit curated.
Curated garage
sale.
Yeah.
There you go.
Curated garage sale.
We actually have a mini museum over there. We'll have to have you check it out.
Oh, that's right.
We
do.
Right as soon as you get there.
And it says right in front of it, these are not for sale.
Which bums me out every time I walk by, because those are the things that interest me the most.
Exactly, yes. What would make, I'm going to pull, say, a Nikon F, the original Nikon F. What would make one more valuable than another? Aside from condition, what are the sort of things you look for in a camera? Obviously, if it's really clean, impeccable, that adds to the value.
Well, I mean, you're touching on condition. I mean, I think with camera collecting, it's the same as a lot of collectible fields, is that the ultimate is something that looks new in the box. If you can get a 1960 Nikon F that looks like it's never been opened, there's a premium for that. In fact, some of the early Brownie cameras, the boxes are worth much more than the actual cameras.
Yeah, that's right.
Getting back to your question, what's collectible, let's say with a Nikon F, would be a really early serial number.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All
That
right,
was the
that makes
question of
sense.
mine. Yeah. So the
Yeah.
earlier the number, the more valuable.
Yeah, and they made in the first year of production there were minor changes, so you can tell if one is made in the first few months, and that's worth a lot more than later ones.
Right, right. And that's what you're looking for when you put together a collection, or is it like, for example, if a Nikon comes in, will you say this is good enough for this current auction, or you'll put it to the side and maybe put it in a collection with other items, or where do you draw the line, I guess?
Well, actually, when you're putting together an auction, you don't always get to really choose. I mean, it's mainly a lot of what you're offered.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody is selling their collection, you're handling what they've put together, rather than going out and sometimes you will go out and search for particular cameras. For
I've
an
also
auction.
noticed that depending on who owned the camera, there's a certain element of value to that too, obviously.
Well, yes, what's called provenance, and that really is only for, let's say, famous photographers. Like, for instance, we have in the sale coming up October 27th, we have a view camera that belonged to Ansel Adams.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the first of his view cameras ever to come up for sale.
Wow.
So
How much is that going to be going for?
Well,
Any
we're-
idea? What?
we're hoping we've got it estimated at $70,000 to $100,000.
Oh, chump change.
And-
you guys
and-
want to go in on that?
Yeah, exactly. And where's the proof? How do you? Because that's always a thing. Like I remember one of the guys from the used department sold me a Widelux once, and he said, "Oh, this is Bruce Davidson's old Widelux." Now, and I was like, "Well,
Prove it.
yeah, exactly. How do I know that? I mean, I know Bruce Davidson used to shop here and stuff like that."
Because that's what I told him when I traded it in.
Yes, exactly. And he said, "Oh yeah, you could come back for the receipt, or maybe." And I never kind of pursued it, but I do feel better, using that camera.
Oh, sure.
And summoning my inner Bruce Davidson.
Well, I know somebody is selling a pair of Leica, I think M4s that belong to Jay Maisel, and I think they were consecutive serial numbers. That's another thing too, right? If you have, say, 2 or 3 lenses or cameras, I've noticed if they have consecutive serial numbers, that also adds to the value. Is that true?
Well, I mean, there are people who collect, well, with Leicas in particular, they collect, nice serial numbers.
Yes.
So if it has lots of zeros at the end, it's worth more.
But by the way, you mentioned that we covered a little bit earlier that the earliest versions are very valuable. What about the last numbers coming off, the very end of a production line? Does that change by the camera, or does that also have a certain amount of value to it?
Well, I think actually you really should separate Leica collecting from the rest of camera collecting.
Yeah.
Because it's its own world.
It's a cult.
And Leica has fed into this by making special editions and collector's editions. So I think recently one of the cameras that they discontinued, they made a special set saying this is the last 100 made.
My favorite limited Leica, by the way, was about 3 or 4 years ago. It was a combination. It was, I think, the 50th anniversary of Playboy and Hello Kitty. And both of the logos, the bunny with the ears and a Hello Kitty, were engraved on it.
Really?
That to me is...
I have not seen that
Oh,
one.
yes. I would love to have just been on the meeting where they even conceived the idea, because it'd be a wonderful dialogue. I'm just love to hear that.
Can we jump back to the provenance question and how you can prove? I guess it's a lot of your work, right? I mean, the research that goes into these things.
Well, exactly. I mean, provenance or the history of a camera really has to be airtight.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people have to believe that it really was this photographer's camera. In the case of this Ansel Adams view camera, Arca Swiss, that we're selling, it came from his assistant, Lillian de Kock, who was his assistant from 1962 to 1972. And Ansel Adams used this camera from 1964 to 68 and gave it to her. There's pictures of Ansel Adams using this camera. He describes it in one of his books. So it's very clear that it came from his assistant and his assistant's estate.
Yeah.
And
yeah, the good
are,
paper
are,
trail.
are they then selling it through you, or did someone buy it? And how does that process work? I'm assuming in most auctions, there is a seller, and the auction house acts as the consignment or the dealer. Is that how it works, or the auction house then owns it?
No, we act as the middleman.
Right.
And so, we will do the catalog and photograph it and describe it and do the research. And for that, when it sells, we get a commission.
Now, is that commission added to the selling prices that come off it? I know, like, I could have a camera say it's worth, say, $5,000 on the open market. I bring it here to the B&H, and they go, yes, it is worth $5,000. We'll give you $2,500, because that's retail. What about with an auction house? If I come in with a camera that says worth, it can go for $5,000. If it sells for $5,000, okay, does the auction house chunk come out of that, or is it added on top of that?
Actually, we get a commission from both sides.
Ah, okay.
So we have the seller's commission, and there's also a buyer's commission.
Okay, all right.
And in terms of provenance and famous people having had cameras, is it specifically photographers, or let's say a John Lennon had a camera that you can prove was his camera? Is that something you'll also sell, or would that go into a Beatles auction?
I'd love to sell that camera
Right.
if you know where it is.
Actually, Ringo is a big photographer, and he's gone through a lot of Nikons and stuff. I know he's always had cameras with him.
I can't think of an instance where a camera owned by a famous celebrity has come up for sale.
Recently, about 2-3 years ago, a speed graphic that was used by Jacqueline Kennedy when she was a reporter early in her career was on the market. It was a speed graphic, complete set, and they documented that. In fact, there was a picture of her holding it while on a sailboat with John Kennedy when they were dating, I think.
Yes, now I remember that now.
So you see, once in a
So
while.
everything's kind of open, right? I mean, if there's a market for it, it can be sold. Is that kind of the way it works?
Right. Let's say if you did have a camera that was owned by a well-known celebrity, that would add value to it.
Aside from Leica, we say is a whole other, again, it's a whole other genre. What other cameras are considered real valuable? What are significant when it comes to auction?
Well, I mean, you have you have people that collect the wood and brass cameras.
Okay.
Yes, I would say you have collectors who kind of often specialize in certain areas. So there are collectors who like the old wood and brass cameras. You go back to daguerreotype cameras from the early 1840s, wet plate cameras, just cameras that look very decorative. There's a whole section of cameras called tropical cameras, which are a subset of collecting that people love because they're just so beautiful. They were designed for the tropics. So while in the, let's say, 1910s or 1900, you would have the regular plate camera, which was just black leather bellows and black leather outside. For the tropics, it was made out of teak wood. The fittings were brass instead of nickel plated.
Okay.
And the bellows are usually a light color. They're usually tan or red. So they cost much more. They were wealthy people often bought the tropical model of a camera.
That's funny because we've been talking about new equipment coming out recently at Photokina, and big thing right now is weatherproofing. So it's been an issue for a while.
It's true. It is true.
What's the oddest item you've ever seen photographic that's come up for auction? The oddest thing connected to photography? Most eclectic.
I mean, there are some really odd cameras for very specific uses. When I was in Qatar, we purchased a balloon camera that was specifically designed for ballooning.
From what era? What era was the camera
That
from?
that was a Zeiss camera that was made around 1910, and it had two lenses, and on the same plate, it would take a picture. It would take an aerial photograph, and it would take a picture of the altimeter, so you could know how high up you were.
Cool.
Wow. See, the new Nikon doesn't even do that. That was advanced. That was really, really
And
good there.
is it fair to say that buyers tend to kind of stick with their niches, like for example, tropical cameras, or are there people that they just have giant collections and they go for the whole thing?
I think it really depends on your budget.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I mean,
That's a dirty word.
well, a lot of collectors start out just collecting Kodaks because they're inexpensive. If you want to get even cheaper, Polaroids, you can pick those up at flea markets or
They're
garage
starting to
sales.
go up again.
Yeah.
They're starting to go up
Saw
again.
a couple the other day, actually, a few Polaroids.
right.
And do you look for, when you're out, when you're trying to find items for the auction house, do you look toward collections specifically, or you'll look for individual cameras here and there, or you'll take all comers, or is there kind of a process you go through when you're starting?
Well, I mean, in general, it's not worth our while to take a camera that's just worth, $100 or $200 from one person.
Right.
So it's much easier to handle an entire collection. But if somebody comes with one valuable camera, yes, we will take that in.
And is Heritage known specifically for cameras compared to the other auction houses, or is there?
Actually, this is our first camera auction.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I mean, I know it has coins and there's the memorabilia factor that they're known for. So this is interesting. Eh? First prints as well. This is the first.
No. We've been doing photographs now for about 6 or 7 years.
Is there much overlap between people who are collecting photographs and people collecting cameras, or is it two separate groups with a little bit of overlap? What's the relation between the two?
It's really funny. I mean, if you get back to the history of camera collecting, a lot of the early camera collectors, and there were camera collecting and photographic historical societies that all started like in the late 1960s, early 1970s. And in those days, people tended to collect both. You had some old photographs and you had some old cameras. And the trade shows that they had and the collectors' meetings, there would be tables of photographs and tables of cameras, and everybody collected everything. Then it kind of slowly over the years separated, and you've got people who just collect photographs and people who just collect cameras. But nowadays, I mean, there's a little overlap, but not as much as there used to be.
Now, you've seen a lot of different artifacts of photography, cameras, lenses, accessories, prints. Well, is there anything that stands out to you that you think is just an outstanding or an amazing camera or something that's photographic that nobody seems to have picked up on and has never gained value and you're surprised about? Does anything stand out like that? Why hasn't this item taken off yet?
That's a good question.
Because we're all ready to go get it.
Well, I think that there was, again, as sort of camera collecting evolved, a lot of people gravitated towards the black, we call like the black and chrome, Leicas, Nikon rangefinders, later material when there's some really great earlier cameras, very, very unusual and very beautiful cameras, from the 1890s, 1900s.
What are some of your favorites? That's a couple of cameras that have come by that just made you stop? Because I imagine you get jaded after a while. You're seeing a lot of really, really neat stuff. But could you name a couple of items that came up and you just made you stop and go, wow, that is really beautiful, it's special?
Well, I mean, in the Spira collection, they had a Sutton panoramic camera, a complete outfit. And that was a camera that was made in the 1860s. And in order to get an ultra-wide angle, the lens was designed to have water in the middle of it.
Oh, yeah.
So you unscrewed the lens, you put it in water, you screwed it up again, and the water acted as an element.
Exactly, sure.
And in those days, it was wet plate photography, so it's glass plates. So they had to make special curved glass plates
Wow.
And so then the developing tanks are all curved. And then you've got a printing frame that's curved. And it's only when you finally make a paper print from the negative that you get something flat.
Interesting.
Wow. Gabe and I both sat up for this one.
Yeah.
That was the wheels are turning.
It's interesting because you see in some of the digital cameras, they have that floating element now for those really
Yes.
small cameras. So that technology has made its way into digital as well for those really, really small cameras. How do you make them wide?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's something that's also really that I always find fascinating is that when you study the whole history of the evolution of cameras, is that people will say that they've just invented something new, and it turns out that was done 100 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, like for instance, the Kodak Instamatic. I don't know what I remember as a child.
Raise your hand.
Yeah, exactly. That came out like in 1964, and that was cartridge loading.
Sure.
And that Kodak advertised that as the first cartridge loading camera. Well, actually, there's a little pocket watch camera called a Tikka from 1900 that was cartridge loading.
And is there a fine line that you can draw when cameras became mass-produced as opposed to hand-produced or handmade or small batch made? And does that make a big difference in terms of their value nowadays to look back and say, well, this was something that was made by a small company that now we've forgotten, perhaps in the turn of the century, and then with mass production, the value is only retained in the first serial numbers and the early cameras or unique individual cameras, or is that something that's not dealt with too much?
Well, I mean, obviously, quantity has a lot to do with it. This was the genius of George Eastman and Kodak, was that he brought mass production.
Right.
And with the introduction of the Brownie, the Brownie was $1.
Right.
Anybody could afford a camera at that point. And so, I mean, it's really funny when somebody will come to me and say, I've got this camera from 1900, it's got to be worth a fortune. Well, no, actually, they were so successful, they made tens of thousands of them.
Right.
And it's actually, again, what's really interesting about collecting cameras is that it's often the failures that are the most valuable. It's the unsuccessful cameras that are the most valuable. We have, for instance, in the auction, a Kodak Ektra. The Kodak Ektra was Kodak's answer to the Leica. And it was designed right before World War II. But it didn't really come out onto the market until after World War II. By that time, the cost of production had gone up, and it ended up it was like $1,000 as opposed to $300 for a Leica, and it was over-engineered and too expensive and made in very small quantities.
Right.
Digital cameras are now going into 20, 25 years of existence right now. It was the mid-'90s when we started to see them coming in. And John and I were talking about this yesterday. Are digital cameras starting to enter the collectible market right now? I mean, for an example, if you go to the store right now in the used department, about 20 years ago, Leica came out with this thing called the Module R, which went on the back of an R8 or R9, and literally you could take your film camera, take the back off, and put a digital back on it. And it took great pictures. And we have one right now, and I'm looking at that, and I'm saying, that's a future collectible. That was a groundbreaking camera from Leica, no less, that worked with their very last SLR. Now, that, to me, says collectible down the line. Anything happening with that yet?
Actually, I would agree.
Yes.
You sprint over to the store.
Right. Is it for
As soon
sale
as,
or is it in
as
the
soon as it
museum?
shows over, I'm going.
It's really funny. I mean, as you say, it's not that long ago, but you try to put together a collection of very early digital cameras, and they're hard to come by.
Sure.
And I know we were collecting them when I was working in Qatar, and to find a Kodak DCS 100 complete outfit, the Kodak's first, which was a Nikon body. It's very hard to find, and what's also hard to find are the. Do you remember before digital there was still video?
Yeah, right.
Like the Canon Zap Shot.
Yes.
Those are hard to
How
find.
about disc cameras? I just picked one up for $3 at a sale. Are there trends that you can point out in the collection of cameras? Something that came and went, or something you're seeing now? Things that spiked in popularity and then faded away. Is that something you can note regularly or not?
Well, I mean, I would say that actually the field of camera collecting is in general is not as strong as it used to be. I think what happened was there were a lot of casual collectors, people who, were photography enthusiasts, but they would pick up an old camera because they would use it every once in a while. I mean, that was the beauty. That was one of the beauty of film. You could take a camera that's 50, 60 years old and still take great pictures with it. So once a lot of people switched over to digital, a lot of those casual collectors who would, take a roll of film every once in a while kind of stopped doing that. Just like, people don't have dark rooms anymore.
Right.
So I would say that was a trend that it's not camera collecting isn't as broad as it used to be.
Is darkroom equipment and enlarger something that is collectible, or not really?
Not really. I've got a 4x5 Bessler if you want one.
Right now, it's like if you want one, you can't even get $100 or $200 for it. It's like, just take it off my hands.
Yeah, you have to pay them to take it away. Yeah. It's
the only it would have to be like a nice early Leica enlarger to have some value.
Everything
Or
goes back
Ansel
to
Adams
Leica.
enlarger.
Yeah.
Right. But getting back a bit to Alan's question, when digital cameras became the norm, did you see a spike or say more availability of film cameras? Did that kind of moment in, let's say, 2005 to 2008 change things to some degree in terms of the availability of film cameras or collectible film cameras?
I would say, yeah. I mean, I would say, for instance, it used to be that any Leica had value. Leica was like a Rolex watch, and people would use, a perfectly good Leica from the 1950s, and they would still take great pictures. With the advent of digital, a lot of those average Leicas have come on the market, and the value of those have decreased. But, the diehard Leica collectors are now paying more for the really rare stuff. So
It's refined.
I would say that what's happened is that the low end of the market prices have actually gone down, but the really, really rare stuff continues to go up.
So the good items are always going to be good investments. It's the middle ground stuff where you're taking your chances.
Yeah, I would say so.
And is eBay a four-letter word in the in your business, in the fine camera auction business, or is it brought more things to the market?
Well, I mean, I think eBay's the great equalizer. I think eBay did to the camera market, I think, what it did to the book market. Well, like Amazon did to the book market. All of a sudden, cameras that you thought were rare and you'd only seen, one or two in your life, all of a sudden on eBay, there's 50 of them.
I'm amazed of how many descriptions right in the headline says rare and stuff like that. That word is such a trashed word on eBay. I mean, you can go buy a brand new digital Rebel and it's rare. It's crazy. It's that word you got to be careful of. I've noticed it's just really abused.
Yeah, you do have to be a bit of buyer beware on eBay.
Yeah,
but some good stuff does come up.
And I guess that leads me to the next question, which maybe we'll address more in the second half of the show. But are there chances for somebody with a modest budget who knows their stuff to hit the garage sales and keep an eye on eBay and find a valuable camera?
Yes, I mean it doesn't happen as often as it used to, but you can still find some really good stuff in garage sales, tag sales. I got recently a Mint Stereo Realist viewer set, which I mean they sell for around $100, but I got it for like $10 at a garage sale.
Right.
Does the average person seem to be more sophisticated to you these days as they were, say, maybe 10 or 20 years ago, as far as people coming into this as collectors? Because there's so much more information available right now through eBay or whatever.
Well,
So do you find that the people coming in are actually a little better informed than they used to be? As far
Yes,
as
I would say that. Before you would go to let's say a tag sale or a garage sale, and the person running it, there might be a camera, and they just put, a low price on it. Now, in a minute, they can go on the internet and see what it's really worth.
We talk about in the past, right? There used to be all these camera fairs that you could go to, and that before eBay.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Is there still camera fairs that are viable?
There's still a few camera fairs around. There's one in New Jersey.
It's a Photorama. I remember Photorama used to be.
I think it's called Second Sunday Camera Fairs. I
Okay.
think it's once a month. And the New England Photographic Historical Society still has an annual fair.
Okay.
How about lenses? Do they retain value, or is there a market for used lenses as well, or collectible lenses?
Sure. Again, rarity.
Right.
Rarity plays into that. You've got certain, Leica lenses that are just very rare. They
Right.
just didn't sell very many of them, or prototype lenses.
And what about the auction that's coming up? Is there any items you can kind of point to that are of note other than the Ansel Adams camera? I noticed there was a Leica M7 that I couldn't really figure out why that was different than the others, but that just may be me.
Well, actually, that came in as part of that collection. Yes,
Okay.
it's kind of more of a user camera than a collectible camera, but it was part of that whole collection.
So if that came in on its own, it would not necessarily be in the catalog.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
But there are a lot of what we call Leica copies. Leica was a very popular design, and a lot of camera companies tried to make copies. So there's a Carden, which is an American copy of a Leica, which is very rare, and a Reed, which is the British version of a Leica, which is also very rare. Again, I'm perhaps overusing the word rare, but I mean,
This is real.
unusual. Okay.
And are there people that collect just American cameras or British? I guess there are. There are people that collect everything.
Right.
But is that something that you note pretty often, that they're just looking for American brands or?
Well, I mean,
British?
let's say, again, we're talking Leica. There are people who, of course, collect Leicas, but there's a whole subset who just collect these Leica copies, because almost every country made, some version of a camera that looks pretty much like a rangefinder, and some of them are incredibly unusual.
I had a friend who collected the Russian knockoffs made post World War II of Leica cameras. And he had about 7 or 8 of them on his mantle, and he told me, he says, "Take a look at them. They were all the same camera." He says, "You notice anything funny about them?" I'm looking at each camera. I had no clue who he was getting at. Finally, he said, "Look at the serial numbers. They were all the same. All the bodies at the same, all the lenses. They just never bothered changing them. So, which made it easier for insurance forms, But
Well, I mean, this collection has a few Russian copies or fakes. There's one in the auction that is supposed to be a Leica made for the Navy, and it's engraved Leica, but it's a Fed that somebody's painted blue. And there's something that's supposed to be a Reed. but it's actually a Fed that's been re-engraved. So this is why you have to be careful when somebody's offering you a gold-plated Leica. It's probably a Fed.
Something we stumbled on here a few weeks back. There's somebody out in the Ukraine. He's taking these old Russian knockoffs, these post-World War, and he's painting them in enamel with Ukrainian folklore images.
Yeah.
And they're like porcelain. They look like fine china, but he
that's
does the body and the lenses, and each one's different. And even close up, the closer you look, they're gorgeous. And that's what he's just taking these cameras and he's making folk art out of them. And they sell for under $300.
And do you
Interesting.
handle all the cameras that come in? Do you take a look at them? Do you inspect them?
You check the shutter speeds?
Well, that's it. I mean, you are selling things actually as is. I mean, we're not testing shutter. I mean, we're testing to see if the shutter works or not, but we're not actually testing the shutter speed or if it has a meter.
Aside from the
seeing
accuracy, the description, everything else, okay, there's no warranty on these. Is that safe to assume that it's guaranteed to be what it's described to be, but
right.
that's it?
Yeah, at auction, you're buying as is.
Okay.
And maybe just to wrap up, I know that you're selling a lot of cameras, but you're also selling fine art prints. And from taking a quick look at the list, I saw, famous photo of the dying soldier by Kappa, and several others. Are there items that you're particularly excited about in terms of prints for this auction?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's some great photographs coming up for sale. We've got some very early Irving Penn photographs. He went with this editor on an around the world trip in 1947 when Pan Am just started their around the world service, and we've got 3 photographs that he took in India that the Penn Foundation hadn't even seen before.
Wow.
Okay.
So that's very interesting. We've got a Man Ray, one of these solarized portraits from the 1930s.
What kind of prices are you expecting or anticipating, say, for the Irving Penn photographs? Any idea what that's going to be going for?
Well, I mean, they're estimated at like $10,000 to $15,000.
Okay.
And hopefully they'll go for more.
And what do you do personally the day of the live auction? Do you sit in the back and just hope for the best, or are you actively involved at that point, or is your work kind of done?
Well, no. I mean, nowadays, a lot of people don't show up for the physical auction. They're bidding either on the internet or they're bidding on the phone.
Right.
So I'm usually on the phone talking to people who are bidding.
Okay. Interesting. Still exciting day, though. No?
Oh, yeah, very
Yeah,
exciting.
I bet. Yeah, maybe we'll stop by.
Okay, we're going to take a short break and come back with more on Collectibles Photographica.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of the B&H Photography Podcast. Send us a tweet at BHPhotoVideo, hashtag BHPhotoPodcast.
We are back. Okay, Gabe, what kind of cameras do you go for?
I go for ones that work. Really,
Okay.
I mean, that's for me. It's part of. I got into it just because I liked obviously the look
Okay.
of certain cameras and having that classic, look and feel to it. But for me, as I started collecting more and more of these, there was 2 really things, and I wanted to think about it. I wanted to say, okay, I'm starting to actually accumulate these. Amass these, right?
Yeah.
What's my vision, right? Because that's what we have to look for. And I wanted something to work because I wanted to use it.
So you use everything.
I want to use it.
Same
I
thing
don't.
here.
I'm not.
Yep.
I'm not behind the glass on it. I don't think I could afford anything behind the glass. But I wanted to kind of, summon that inner how they shot in the '60s, how they shot in the '50s, how they shot. So it was important for me to kind of. I really wanted to have something from every decade to a certain degree. And for me, again, it had to work, and it had to, whether this was the camera itself or the lens, it had to make me see in a different way. And that's what I kind of love about all those classic cameras that I miss a little bit in digital. is that, you know, it was either a certain rangefinder. Like I have 2 Leicas in my collection. You know, one is the 3C, which was I think the more accessible of those, the 3s. And it has such a little tiny viewfinder. It's the one with the double where one zoomed in to help you focus the other one. And it was so difficult for me to do that at the beginning. But in the end, it actually became much easier. And I could kind of stand back and you train yourself to do that. And I love that is such a pocketable, small camera when matched with like a collapsible 50mm lens. I remember taking that to Amsterdam and just, I would put it in my coat pocket and just walk around and shoot with that. And I later got the M3 double stroke. I was like, let me get the double stroke. I've never double stroked. you know, I want to see what that feels like. And it puts you into a different mindset to go out there and shoot that way. So
Just tell me you don't do that while you're driving, then, okay?
I don't know.
Yeah, don't double stroke while you're driving.
Exactly.
And how often do you break out a camera to use it?
You know, it's a little sad because I do actually have a dark room at home as well. So I'm one of those guys who actually has a dark room and my collection is about 40 cameras. Ranging from probably, I think the oldest one I have is some Brownies from the turn of the century. I have about 4 or 5 of the Brownies, but then I said, you know what, I need to get one from, you know, like those 1900 to 1910. And actually, so I started a series that I really need to pick back up. And the series was to basically take my collection for a ride. And I about 4 years ago, I took 2 Brownie cameras to Rome. And it was awesome. And I went around the streets of Rome shooting with these 2 Brownies. And my buddy took a picture of me. We went to the Colosseum, and I'm taking pictures with the Brownies in the Colosseum. And I'm like, when was the last time someone shot the Colosseum with a Brownie? You know?
So was that a 120 film?
It was 120 film. Yeah, I mean, again, I've also, you got some 620, you know, so part of it is, you know, curating that collection to film that's still available.
Right.
You know, so that can be tricky, especially with those Brownies, because there are some beautiful ones. I really want one of those tropical Brownies. You know, I really like that red bellows. I've always wanted to get one of
Russian
those.
Russian leather, if I'm not mistaken, right? The red leather?
The Russian leather bellows.
Which mildew resistant.
Yeah. So I've taken.
Alan. All right, I'm impressed.
So I think I've got up to the 50s with this camera collection in that series, and then it kind of just, I need to go back to it.
And do you feel the need every now and again to get one? Do you plan this out? Is it catch as catch can? Do you give yourself a budget and go for it? Or?
Well, the series is on hold. Let's say it's been on hold for about a year. Just because really I've also fallen in love a little bit with some of the digital cameras and that immediacy. Right. And that's been able to kind of really, in this world of getting your images out there as soon as possible, and I'm actually not the greatest at that, but that immediacy.
Film slows you down, it might.
Film does slow you down, you know. But I also, you know, but you know what? Actually, this year I've actually been shooting with my pinhole camera, which I have one, a modern pinhole camera. But I love that, and I've been going to all the national parks, and I'm trying to shoot every national park with a pinhole. So that's another. That series has kind of taken over.
One of the things I appreciate about my camera collecting is that I use, like yourself, I use them. And I find that going back to cameras, a lot of the cameras I have are so basic. There's no electronics. They don't even have coupled finders. It's if the picture comes out, it's because I did everything right.
And a little bit of luck.
And a little bit of absolutely. But I find that it makes me a better digital photographer, and I find that it's a great thing. Every once in a while, just put down the digital, and like you just said, I'll go out for a day or a weekend, and I'll just have my film cameras, my eclectic, weird cameras with me, and I redo my thinking and my approach to taking pictures, and I get some good stuff, and I go back, and all of a sudden, my digital cameras are like rocket ships to me, and I love it.
But that's one of the wonderful things about photographic equipment is that just by using a different kind of camera, you have a completely different way of thinking about things. I mean, if you've ever used a view camera, you know, where it's $10 every time you click the shutter, you're going to think a little bit harder
Yes.
and when you're seeing upside down.
Right. As well,
I mean-
exactly. And it takes you a half an hour to set up
Yep.
for the shot.
Yep.
You're thinking about it completely differently than you would with digital or. I mean, I think both of you are what I was talking about before. These collector users.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And there are certain things that film cameras can do that digital still can't really do. I mean, a wide-lux panoramic camera or a horizontal
Yep.
panoramic camera, they're great. And you don't quite get that with the same effect with a
Well,
digital
you could play
camera.
certain tunes on certain guitars that you can't play as well on other guitars because the instrument is a little bit different.
It's like a tube amp or
Exactly.
whatever.
And-
You're not going to get
Nigel,
the same.
do you collect yourself cameras?
Yeah, a bit. I mean, like for instance, my nephew just had a wedding this
Mm-hmm.
weekend. I shot the wedding with my stereo realist.
Oh, I love it.
The recent acquisition.
Yeah. So, well, actually, no, I've had that camera for 25 years. But yeah, I mean, you can't get that same 3D effect with a digital camera. I've got a Linhof Master Technica that I
okay.
haven't used in about 10
Nice.
years.
Exercise the shutter.
Yeah.
And Gabe, do you ever look to the value? Do you say, okay, I'm buying this one only because I know it's going to increase in value or it's valuable, or is it really just about what looks good and what you want to use?
There's definitely some ones that I've had my heart set on, and that they're just too much out of my price range. I can't justify it, and the risk of, is it going to work? Because again, that is really important to me.
Right.
And it used to be, boy, living in New York, I could go to lots of places to get stuff. As soon as I'd buy it, I'd bring it to the shop and have them test it and make sure that it was working. And I remember just walking around just our neighborhood here in B&H, and there was tons of repair places.
Yeah.
And there are so few now. And there are so few skilled people to kind of fix, especially very specific cameras, that it makes it, definitely more risky.
If I can ask, what's the most you spent on a camera?
I don't think my wife's listening to this podcast.
This is just between us. Don't worry
This is
about
just
that.
between
This ain't
us.
getting out of this room.
I did buy maybe I think maybe the baby Graflex I actually got from B&H. Steve Arts. This was a Steve Arts.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, okay.
remember Steve Arts? He kind of put it together. It was a baby Graflex, but with a Rodenstock 90mm 2.8 lens. So
Ooh, okay.
one of the fastest lenses and one of the wider lenses you could put on that. And that probably was around, it was probably under $1,000. Maybe I got it for like $700 or $800. But probably around that $1,000 price range. The two Leicas I've gotten, one was on eBay, the 3C, and I got that with two lenses, and I think I spent $500 on that. The Leica 3 M3 double stroke I bought from a friend for $800. It was probably worth at that time, $1,000 to $1,100. So he gave me the friend break.
If your wife is listening, I think it's important to qualify that all the equipment you just spoke about is worth in excess of $27,000. I just did a fast search on it, so you're way ahead of the game.
All right.
You're way ahead of the game. You're okay.
Well, that gets us to the question we were going to ask Nigel about the kind of the long-term value of cameras and how they compare to other collectibles.
Yeah,
or
how does
the stock
collecting
market.
photography, cameras and prints compare to, say, collecting stamps, gold bullion, or just investing in the stock market?
The camera market is a little special. I think you're really just talking about the very, very rarest cameras that are, steadily increasing in value. Photographs, on the other hand, photographs historically, if you track blue chip photographs, the top of the market, they've done as well as any other art group. Paintings, for instance, I would say that they double in value about every 7 years.
Okay.
So you're getting
That's pretty darn good.
you're getting a 10 to 15% increase per year, which is better than most investments.
I'm dumping my 401k this afternoon.
Yeah.
I'm going downstairs.
Let's go to the auction house.
And Gabe, do you display your cameras at your house? They're all out?
Yeah,
Everything?
definitely. I have a top shelf of the bookshelf that gets the brunt of it there, and if I go back to my wife, she like, I have to, whenever we have a party or people over, I've got to dust the cameras.
Right.
Oh, yes.
I can't have them looking bad. I kind of wish I did have glass over them, but whatever. I also like that. I like when people come over and they pick them up.
Absolutely.
And they
Half the
take
fun,
a look
right?
at
It's the
exactly
conversations and the stories that come around the camera.
Exactly. So yeah, they're all out on display, and only 2 are not working. Those are just 2. One was my dad's, and it just he dumped it in water. The Canon AE1, which is, everyone has to have a Canon AE1, the most mass-produced camera, in their collection. So that's on the bottom row.
And clearly it has a personal connection to it.
Yeah, a couple of personal ones.
Which is interesting too, that aspect of why we collect things.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
I think one of the benefits, just we were talking earlier about the values and stuff. One of the benefits of digital photography, I think, is that it brought down, you're talking about you can't afford a lot of this stuff. It brought down the prices of a lot of film cameras for a long time. I think it's starting to go back up again. But some of the things that I've purchased in the past couple of years are cameras that back in the day I could never have imagined buying. I couldn't justify the price of them. But now they're actually quite affordable, and if you get them at their bottom of their peak, they'll definitely go up with time. And the personal satisfaction from using, that's another thing too that I think is important.
Yeah, there's definitely been. Listen, nostalgia is running high.
Oh.
And a lot of these classic cameras, you see a lot of the young generation now is wanting to use film, and you're seeing a lot of these. Our parent, we're getting handed down these film cameras, which is a beautiful thing, and is something I worry about with digital cameras, that those really don't last as long. So you're seeing a lot of people out there that are using these AE1s or just a lot of these classic cameras and wanting to slow down, which again, in this world that we live in, that is quite fast paced. It is a breath of fresh air to kind of see that happen.
No two ways about it. Yep.
And how that's influenced the digital, that companies like pretty much every major company really has sort of looked back to their history and is either Olympus, especially Olympus and Fuji, I think, really kind of embraced that. And those are some of the most popular digital cameras. I just picked up the Fuji X Pro 2, and I loved it. I loved having that in my hands. It was just, again, gave me that feeling that the camera had soul, and was
Had soul and substance,
and wanted me. I wanted to take it out for a walk.
Yeah,
I felt energized by that, and that's something that I have missed a little bit in this digital age. But it is coming back, and hopefully some more of the manufacturers can. Why Nikon can't make a Nikkormat or a real F1?
Well, they have the Nikon DF.
Yeah, it's too chunky. Too chunky.
But it still has a bit of that feel.
It does. It does. And Canon Canon could be looking back at all their rangefinders, those were lovely, that they were making, or even the FT, by Canon. That was a workhorse camera.
People always ask me, what's the future of film? I think that what will happen is that film and analog photography in general will be, this small niche market for people who are just really enthusiastic. My wife took a course a little while back at the George Eastman House on making gelatin silver paper, regular photographic paper, because they think at the Eastman House that eventually that will get discontinued. But yeah, you've got most people shooting on their phones, and you've got this small group of people who are doing wet plate photography and making all of their own film and paper and making it a real craft.
Just as there are a couple of boutique print houses, I think they're still setting type using lead type.
I actually just got my tint type done this weekend.
Did you? At Photoville?
At Photoville. There was Penumbra Foundation.
Right. A guest. We've had him here, Jeff Berliner.
It was great. He didn't shoot me on his Voigtlander like he has, I guess, a Voigtlander, huge lens, and it's like super fast. And I was like, I had to come back at night, I guess, for that. But
now that's something we were talking earlier about. eBay used to be a great place to go. Jeff used to buy brass lenses by the bucket for like $10 in shipping. Now you can't do that.
Can't do that now. No, that,
And he has over 1,000 lenses in his collection, I think.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
something.
It's scary.
It's funny that is one of the areas that has actually increased in value. Is that before, right? You could pick up an old brass lens for nothing, and now there are people who want to buy them to use them.
right?
Yeah.
So those have increased.
Well,
That's
a lot of good information here today. Gabe, thank you.
You're welcome. It's great. I'm going to go shoot some film. I got to get back on these projects. Thanks for reminding me.
But don't shoot Kodachrome. It's going to be hard to get it to
Yeah, I
value.
know. I
that's tough.
have like 4 rolls in my fridge. I'm like, what am I going to do with this?
I still have some
Yeah.
120 Kodachrome. They made that for a while.
Is
but-
there?
Right.
There's not anybody, right? There's
No,
I thought
there's
there were-
no-
I thought there's
nope.
one guy in Madagascar or something like
Nope,
that.
nope,
I
not
think-
at all.
I don't know whether they're still doing it. There was one lab in the Midwest that would do a run 2 or 3 times a year or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yep.
But for, again, a lot of money
Yes.
per roll.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
That's crazy, crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think that film will be worth anything? If I just keep it.
auctioning off film rolls.
Actually, just recently, Kodak got a couple of rolls of film that were missing from their collection.
Yeah, the George Eastman House
Yes.
managed to get, there's a picture in that book of Fred Spira had one of the original Kodak roll film in the original box.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, but Eastman House, the very first film for the Kodak camera was actually coated on paper, not on celluloid, and so that they managed to get one of those rolls. And that-
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, here's one more thing for you. Recently, the Leica family tree that sat in their corporate headquarters that had one example of every Leica ever made went up for auction and sold for about, I don't know, $500 million, some ridiculous amount of money.
It was a tree. It was like a metal tree.
It was a metal tree, but and on the branches were
Each
every
one.
single model that they had, and it just went up for auction and sold for a lot of money. But I was surprised they sold that.
Yeah.
That's sort of like, I don't know, sacrilege.
Well, Leica sold quite a bit from their museum when they were in this process of reorganizing and needed some cash.
Yeah. I bet
but-
this. I wonder if they're
Have you been to that
crying
museum?
about
No, I've been to the Wetzler factory, but I haven't been to the museum. But yeah, there was what's called a null series Leica, which is the very
Yes.
the
Right.
20
Yeah.
the 21st prototypes
Yes.
that were made. That's the world's record for a camera at auction. That sold for over $2 million.
Wow.
That's actually a good question. Are there any other examples of specific cameras that have, commanded a huge price like that?
There have been a few of these Leicas that have been owned by famous photographers, but who also had the Lights factory do something special to them. So it not only appeals to people because it was owned by a famous photographer, but also because it's a rare modification.
And modification by the factory, not themselves.
Factory
Right,
modification.
exactly.
Right.
So I think, I'm trying to remember, I think the David Douglas Duncan camera was the prototype for the M2,
Okay.
and that sold for over $1 million.
Ansel Adams not going to reach that level, probably.
Yeah, well,
Not this time around.
I mean, his Hasselblad, the only other equipment from Ansel Adams that's ever come up for auction was in 1999. His Hasselblad equipment came up for sale, and that sold for $100,000.
Which, who knows what that would have sold for today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, also, I noticed on eBay recently somebody was selling a 50mm Distagon from a Hasselblad, black one, and it was apparently one of the original ones. It didn't even say Distagon on it. It had a little D next to the 50, and they say this was obviously one of the prototypes when they were developing it. And that caught my attention. I figured that lens is going to be worth. It was actually they were asking
Yeah.
twice as much as any other 50 being listed that day, but they knew it.
There was, hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
But for instance, in after World War II, the U.S. came in, and there was this movie about the museum men who were going after,
Yes,
who were
yes,
going
yes.
after the artwork. There was a whole separate group of people who were going to the Leica factory, the Zeiss factory, AGFA, to get basically trade secrets. And they took this this collection of rare Zeiss prototype lenses, all of these lenses that Zeiss was working on right before World War II and during World War II, and they took them over to the United States to study them. And Bausch & Lomb and Wallensack and a lot of the U.S. optical companies were studying these. And then the U.S. government just put them on the Birkin James Lens Exchange. So you can look at some of these early 1950s Birkin James catalogs and see lenses that are one of a kind, and they were selling them for almost nothing. And I think one of these came up for sale recently, which was a prototype of an ultra wide angle lens for like an 8x10 view camera.
Wow.
And sold for
Hey guys,
30,
you want to do a
40,000.
script on this? There's a movie here. There's a movie here. Let's keep this between ourselves.
The cameraman.
Let's do a script.
Okay, cool.
All right. Anyway, that terrific conversation. Gabe, again, thank you so much for joining us today. And Nigel Russell, thank you so much for coming down and
thank
enlightening
you.
us. It was terrific speaking to you. And I'm kind of amazed by the amount of information you have in your head about this topic, which we all love. Can you tell us a little bit about the auction that's coming up?
Well, it's online now at wwha.com. And we're going to have a preview at our offices in Park Avenue, 445 Park Avenue, starting October 20th. So you can actually come in. We're going to have just the better cameras, the top 65 cameras.
The ones that Gabe and I will be bidding on.
Yeah, we'll be there for you to actually look at and handle.
Oh, wow.
And Ansel Adams' camera will be there.
Nice.
And can you just walk in off the street, or
Yeah.
do you need to make an appointment?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
And then the actual auction itself is October 27th at the Waldorf Astoria.
Beautiful. Great setting.
Neat stuff. Okay. Gabe, if anybody wants to catch up with your latest work, where can they go?
They should go to nationalparksatnight.com. That's where we're showcasing all of our weekly blog and our workshop series for night photography.
Cool. And if anybody would like to see what I've been up to lately, my Instagram is Alan Weitz, ALLANWEITZ. Feel free to browse about. John, what about you? Where's your work these days?
My work is right here.
You're right here. Okay.
But send people to Explora. We need.
Oh, yes,
we need
okay.
to-
Also, for a lot more information on current and collectible cameras and all kinds of photographic topics, visit Explora on the B&H website. We have some wonderful videos, terrific articles, and a lot of information that you're just not going to find anywhere else. All of that said, thank you so much for joining us today.